There is a sense of mystery and glamour clinging to the figure of the Duchess of Plaisance. I, like most people, was captivated by her story from the moment I first heard of her, but really I know almost nothing about her. Most Athenians are familiar with her name. There's even a metro station named after her. But most know only the myths and legends surrounding the Duchess, not the historical facts. I think the hugely popular recent exhibition in the Byzantine and Christian Museum really brought her into a clearer perspective. The museum's an ideal venue to get to know the Duchess. This was once her residence. But I'm getting ahead of the story. Sophie de Marbois-Lebrun was born in 1785 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where her father was serving as the French consul general. At around 17, Sophie married Charles Lebrun, who inherited the title of the Duke of Plaisance, or Piacenza as it is known in Italy. In October 1804, Sophie gave birth to a daughter, Elisa Lebrun de Plaisance, but there were to be no other children as their marriage was an unhappy one, and by the early 1820s, Sophie was claiming that her husband wanted to kill her. Soon after, the couple wisely decided to live separate lives, Sophie in Italy and François in Holland. Possibly, the Duchess's personal unhappiness found an outlet in her championing of the cause of Greek independence. After meeting the man who would become the first head of state of a newly liberated Greece, Count Yannis Kapodistrias, in Paris in 1826, the Duchess became a generous benefactor to the Greek liberation effort. Within a few years of the outbreak of the Greek War of Independence, both the Duchess and her daughter Eliza found themselves at the forefront of the wave of Philhellenism which swept across Western Europe. In January 1830, the Duchess and her daughter arrived in Nafplio, the capital of Greece at this time. Their old acquaintance Yannis Kapodistrias had been head of state of Greece for just over 2 years, but somehow the relationship between Kapodistrias and the Duchess soured rapidly, and she became outspokenly opposed to his political views and left for Italy. She returned to Greece in 1834 and settled in the new capital of Athens. Greece now had a Bavarian king, Otto, but the Duchess chose not to mix freely in court circles. Living at first in a rented mansion on Piraeus Street, the Duchess seized the opportunity to travel in the Middle East and Beirut, where sadly her daughter Elisa died. The Duchess was devastated by her daughter's death and returned to Athens with her embalmed remains. And true to a promise she made to her dying daughter never to leave her side, she kept her coffin in the house where she took up residence. Athenians whispered that she would hold long and animated conversations with her daughter's remains. The Duchess purchased huge tracts of land in and around Athens and engaged the architect Stamatis Kleanthis to design a palace for her on the slopes of Mount Pendeli. Perhaps her greatest legacy to Greece is through all the building work she commissioned during her life in Athens. The land where the Duchess's Pendeli Palace stands once belonged to the monastery of Pendeli, and she purchased 1,700 stremata of land off the abbot for 7,500 drachma. I find it so sad today that the Duchess's mansion on Mount Pendeli looks forgotten and shuttered, and it's not an easy task to find it. The signposting is dismal. Luckily, the Villa Elysia, completed by Kleanthis in 1848, is not suffering the same fate. Today it houses the Byzantine and Christian Museum and is in the process of external renovation work, but you can see the similarity in architectural styles between the two palaces. This townhouse looked straight onto Mount Lykavetos, then a barren wilderness on the outskirts of town, and the back of the villa overlooked the river Ilissos. The Duchess was a central figure in the social life of Othonian Athens. Her generosity was legendary, and her love of learning meant that she sponsored many young Greek women, enabling them to get an education. She loved to host symposia on topics such as religion and politics. But the Duchess was just a bit too unconventional for Athenian society at that time. Her probable conversion to Judaism and sponsoring of the building of a synagogue in Evia would not have been a popular move. Later in life, Sophie commissioned Kleanthis to build a final home and resting place for her daughter's remains. But sadly, she'd never lived to see the building completed, as it caught fire and burned to the ground. After that, the Duchess withdrew from public life until her death in 1854 at the age of 69. I think she probably encouraged the legends and rumours that grew up around her. Obviously, she was a bit of an oddball. She definitely did have her daughter embalmed and placed in the basement of her house. She did grant titles of nobility to those she liked. She dabbled in mysticism and had contact with many of the bandits that roamed the hills surrounding Athens. But all these traits just add to her appeal as one of the liveliest and most fascinating figures in early modern Greek history.